So it is a new growing season. I've got a new sprawl of twine and I got some bamboo because it's still a little bit early to be doing too much here. But I like to get started by making certain structures, and today there's a very important discussion to be had, which is how do you actually save money growing food? And whilst this could be a whole massive video in itself, I thought I'll start off by picking 9 crops that actually do make a difference. And also I can plant out onions, which is exciting. You see, self-sufficiency doesn't start with trying to grow as many different crops as possible. It starts with productive, resilient crops that are genuinely worth growing. Now, of course, as your garden matures and you start to make your own compost and you start to slowly build up the infrastructure, you can grow as many different things as you want. And you can also completely ignore my advice, but I'm just here to show you and tell you that you can start growing your own food and making a big difference from this growing season onwards. And if nourishing your family with homegrown or locally sourced food is one of your goals, and understand how to best cook and preserve it, well, conveniently for you, How to Grow Food launches this week that shows you 70 crops and how to adapt them to your garden, and get yourself a copy and maybe one for Mother's Day as well. That makes a nice difference. Right, so let's start talking plants. The first category is plants. We'll just run with it, Sam. Plants that you plant once and you get harvest for years for minimal effort, he says whilst banging in a post. But this plant doesn't count. It's in the same family as one of the plants I'm going to say in a second, but there is a little bit of maintenance to do, and this collard is collapsed. So I'm just bringing it upright so I restore my lollipop back into the garden. There you go. So the first perennial to grow for self-sufficiency is rhubarb, which is such a powerhouse. This is something that you plant and it just keeps giving, and it's also nice and early. So from around March until July, you can get so much food from this one space. And also it doubles up as a slug trap, because what the Victorians used to do is they would use the leaves, place them down on the ground, and then the following morning pick them up, and that is where you find slugs hiding underneath. So I love a dual purpose plant like this, and if you're looking for some rhubarb, we've got them for sale at Dovey Plants. Now, when I was saving that lollipop, I mentioned that there was another type of brassica to grow as a perennial, and a perennial is something that comes back year after year. Well, this is amazing. This is Dorberton's variegated kale, also available from Dovey Plants. And the thing with this is that this is evergreen, which means even throughout the winter months, you can harvest this and eat it and cook it just like a kale. And it looks epic as well. And the lovely thing about this is that when you get a plant, you can then get a little stem, take a few leaves off and plant that as a cutting, and it's going to root. So all you need is one plant, and you can make potentially a couple of hundred plants from this one plant by the end of the year. Now, there are actually a few different types of perennial kales that you can grow in your garden, and this here is keeper's kale, which has such a fine, nice, high quality leaf, and it is so abundant. And so much food comes out of this. So again, that one plant that you might spend £8 to £10 on, it then comes to your garden, and then you've got this right throughout the whole growing season. So much food for very little effort, and it's easy to propagate. So this is where being clever about what certain plants you choose, this is where you can start making a huge amount of impact. I was going to say savings, but actually I'd like to think positively. Rather than saving stuff, what can you gain? And from this you can gain a huge amount of food. Look at that, dandelion. You can eat it if you're desperate, but I've never quite been desperate enough to eat a dandelion. But there were some nettles down at the bottom there, and nettles are great because they grow for free and they're really tasty and they're great spinach alternative. But back to proper flavour, this here is black currants, and all the different kind of currants, black currants, pink currants, red currants, white currants, and things like gooseberries are great because you can start off with a stick like this, pop it in the ground, and it grows into this bush. And this has been insanely productive for us. Probably, I don't know, like 3 kilos of black currants last season, absolutely drooping. And the nice thing about black currants is that the blackbirds don't really get them. So don't just limit yourself to thinking you have to grow just like vegetables. Think about fruit as well, because rhubarb, technically it's actually a vegetable. It's used as a fruit, but it's a vegetable. And so this kind of stuff that you have growing, it's so resilient, it's so hardy. This is going to stay here for 15, 20 years and produce so much food for very little maintenance. All I'll need to do is come through, prune out a few branches, probably take about a minute a year, maybe mulch it once a year, and that is it. That is how you produce a lot of food. So the next category is high yield annual crops. These are crops that are very productive to grow, but aren't cheap as chips in the supermarket. So that means no potatoes, although I've done a video all about how to be self-sufficient in potatoes. And also onions don't quite really cut it. You can grow a huge amount of onions in a small space, but they're kind of not the most expensive. But there are some things that are so dead easy to grow, but for whatever reason, they're quite expensive in shops. One of my favorites, as long as you know how to cook it properly, it becomes delicious by picking it when it's younger, is courgettes or zucchini. And I'm going to be a bit cheeky, I'm going to say courgettes, and if you don't like them, grow cucumbers. So courgettes are great because they just need a small space and they just keep on giving. Plus you can eat the leaves as well. So they give you a couple of additional harvests. As with these onions, you can eat these onion leaves, you can use them like spring onions. But what I love about the courgettes and cucumbers is you just need to give them a bit of fertility to start off with, like a quarter of a bag of compost, so that might cost a couple of quid. You've got one plant that you could buy for like £1.50, £2. You grow it, and you're probably going to end up with more than you can deal with. And the thing is, the way that you then save further costs is by buying a seed packet and starting it off yourself. Now, obviously, the variety that you grow of anything is an important consideration. And for cucumbers, I found that growing outdoors in the UK, which isn't usually pristine cucumber climate, but Marketmore is a fantastic variety for that. If you can maybe have 4 or 5 plants, you're actually going to struggle as a family to keep up with that kind of production. And that's only 4 or 5 cucumber plants. And so it really does go a long way. Now the secret with things like fruity and vegetables, and the next one that I recommend in this category of highly productive annuals that do cost a little bit, that have that value, is climbing beans, specifically runner beans, is that you want to pick them when they're younger. I said this in an earlier video, but you want to pick them when they're younger because that is when they're kind of at their freshest. They've got the best flavour, like a beautiful little buttery courgette. It's the same thing with growing runner beans, which will go up some of these structures, because when you pick them, it encourages them to produce more. Whereas if you allow them to grow on, then they are going to start setting seed and they don't have that urgency to think, you know what, let's carry on producing. So actually by picking more at a smaller stage, you're going to end up with a lot more food. Now, because I'm feeling generous and everyone likes beans, I'm including broad beans as the third, but only because of the seasonality. And also because the thing about broad beans and also field beans is that they grow better, or they grow really well and really productively in poorer quality soil. So if you're just starting off with a garden, you might not have loads of homemade compost that you can grow. And so you can't just go out and spend loads on compost, particularly if you're wanting to make a difference with growing your own food. So field beans and broad beans, or fava beans, they're great because they're so cheap to buy. Buy them as a green manure seed, grow them in containers, toilet roll tubes, whatever you want, plant them out. You get 2 key harvests. They're tops when they start flowering. That helps to prevent the black fly as well. But then you get so many beans that you can then pod and enjoy, and well worth doing. I also just remembered that for the runner beans, when you're fed up of the green beans, leave the rest to grow and mature and dry in those dried pods, and then harvest those beans, and you can then re-soak those beans for making casseroles and stews over the winter months. Now this is where it gets hard, because as I'm filming this, there's so many more crops that I want to share that I think can definitely make an impact. Like, for example, I've got some coriander here, which is great. A little goes a long way, and herbs are a great one. But what I would say is the third category for being serious about trying to save as much money as possible is things like leafy greens. So of course, leafy greens as a category, you have so many different things. You have like mustard greens. Also, I'll just grab this. You got spinach as well. Look at that. That looks beautiful and luscious. But there are three in particular that I would prioritize to begin with. So the first leafy green is, well, do you know how crazy it is how a single packet of seeds can give you so much food? Like if you buy a packet of lettuce seeds, that's 1,000 seeds of lettuce. If only a third of those grow on a bad day, that's 300 lettuce plants for about £2. How much lettuce can you grow? Like my top tip would be, you could have like half a bed like this. Now I just need to give this a bit of a weed and a spring clean to make it look presentable, because I'm meant to know what I'm doing. Ooh, weeds. But if you had a bed like this, and every couple of weeks you just sowed or transplanted a row of lettuce, and then you just mainly took the leaves, and then when they really nicely head up as the fresher lettuce is coming through, you can then harvest the whole thing, the whole rosette. You're going to be self-sufficient in lettuce for probably 8 months of the year for virtually any effort, to be honest with you, apart from a bit of sowing, bit of harvesting. And the lovely thing about leafy greens is, because they're not trying to produce fruit like you do for things like tomatoes, is that they too don't need that much kind of nutrition in the ground, which is great because it lowers costs as well. I'm just clearing out this hotbed. I've got loads of compost. I've also got a whole compost bin full of compost. So there are a couple of beds which I am going to fully mulch with just more fertility this year. And in terms of things that make, like, a little goes a long way with compost, and there's a certain leafy green where a little goes a long way in such a short space of time, and that is Chinese cabbage. I have never, in my whole life of growing, ever seen a vegetable that has grown so quickly in such a short space of time, which is kind of the same thing, but it's grown so quickly and so big, it's like dense. I've struggled to find anything that is as productive as that. So Chinese cabbage is brilliant. It's like the foundation to lots of good things, like kimchi. And it's really easy to grow. Now for this last thing on leafy greens, I've been a little bit cheeky, but you should know that. And if you don't know that, welcome to my channel, subscribe. Which is, the third category of leafy greens isn't a crop, or the third crop isn't a crop. It's a collection of crops, because, as I alluded to earlier, things like your courgettes give you leaves that you can cook and eat. This is where the mindset comes in massively for self-sufficiency, and this is what so many people miss, is that permaculture idea of stacking functions. How many multiple benefits can you get from a single plant? And so things that I've already mentioned, kind of like secretly unveiling it as the video went on, things like the broad bean tops as well, runner bean leaves if you really, really want, the nettles, all of these are leafy greens. And the reason why I really want to focus on the leafy greens is that it's really easy to be self-sufficient in salad. I remember doing a video about it a few years ago, by just having a normal vegetable garden. So things like beetroot, which I love beetroot, that's amazing homegrown. You can't compare it with anything you get from a shop. But the amazing thing about beetroot is that the leaves are a charred alternative. So when you're harvesting the roots, you can use the leaves as well. Or things like carrots. Yes, carrots are really cheap to grow, or cheap to buy. They're also cheap to grow. But when you buy them from a shop, you're missing out on those really vibrant young kind of carrot leaves that you can then cook, saute, turn into a pesto. You can then freeze that pesto so you're preserving it. And then other things, like if you're growing purple sprouting broccoli as a hungry gap crop, you can eat the leaves of that. There's so much that grows in your garden that gives you multiple harvests. What I'm trying to get across is that a garden has so much more opportunity than we realize. And I don't care what other people say about, oh, it's just a pipe dream being self-sufficient. Stuff that. Like, you can grow a huge amount of food in a small space. I've never once said that you have to go and be completely independent from the rest of the world. That's probably a good recipe to be a little bit depressed. I like people in small doses. So one of the best things you can do is grow your own food. How to Grow Food is written just for you, showing you how to adapt this book into your own garden to nourish your family with fresh, real, nutritious food. And it's out this week, so enjoy.